Hello, and welcome to the Rabe Creations podcast, episode number 31. My name's Nicole, and I'm coming to you from Calgary, Alberta, here in Canada, where I live with my husband, Barry, and my beautiful, wonderful, rescued Rottweiler named Grace. All right, first off, I would like to say hello to everyone who is a returning viewer. I am happy to announce that we have broke the 400 mark for viewership, so that is fantastic. Quickly on our way to 500 subscribers, and that is amazing. I never ever imagined when I first started this channel that there would be so many people willing to sit and listen to me ramble on. So thank you if you've hit that subscribe button. Thank you if you continue to come back week after week, although it's usually about 2 weeks apart, to see me ramble. I do appreciate your support. And to all of the new subscribers, and there have been a number of them this past little while, thank you for pushing that subscribe button. Thank you for taking the chance on this podcast. Thank you for supporting my dream. I hope you enjoy what you find here, and let people know about the channel. That would be fantastic. The more people we can spread the crochet love to, the better, in my opinion. All right, so it's been about 2 weeks since I last recorded. I will say I got extremely ill last week. I had that awful summer, spring flu that's been going around, and it knocked me on my butt. I normally get sick occasionally throughout the year. I've got a pretty good immune system. I've worked, in frontline customer service for over 20 years now, and that leaves you with a pretty strong immune system. But this one got me good. The positive thing about being so ill is that I had some time off from work. I had one full sick day and a couple of half days, which means that I had lots of time to crochet. Now, I was feverish, so there were mistakes made and frogging that had to be done, but there was definitely more time to crochet, which is always welcomed. Keeping that in mind, I have a number of finished projects to share with you today. So I do have my show notes here, trying to keep track of everything. This will likely be a little bit of a longer episode because I have so much to share with you. So let's get right into it. So let's start out with some of my finished projects, things that I have finished over the past 2 weeks. And the first one is what I'm wearing. I am so excited. Now, I talked to you, I believe it was on the last podcast, in regards to a sweater's quantity of yarn that I picked up from one of my local yarn stores here in Calgary. They were having a sale before their inventory, sell it so we don't have to count it kind of a thing. And of course, sale yarn, I had to go. And my husband actually came with me, which was kind of fun. And I got a sweater's quantity of this wool. It is by the Mineville Wool Project, which is based out of Eastern Canada. And they have a fairly interesting concept where they're taking yarns from other small dyers and small producers and marketing it for them under their own label, and that's kind of what this is. If you're interested, I'm going to link them below. Visit their webpage and take a look. I don't think that you can buy directly from them, but you can definitely talk to your local yarn stores and see if they can support, especially those of you in Canada. Let's get behind our Canadian producers, and let's see if your local yarn stores can work with the Mineville Wool Project to get some of this into their shops. Because so far, this is the first time I've tried anything they've offered, and I loved it. It is a 100% merino wool. It is superwash, so it can be machine washed, although I would never throw this in the machine. I just couldn't do it. Hand wash it is for me with all of my crochet things. Even the acrylics, they are hand washed. I put too much time and effort into trusting machines to wash my product. Anyway, it is a merino single ply in a DK weight. I really, really like single ply. To me, it has a little bit more of a rustic feel to it than some of the other plies. So you'll get thick pieces of yarn, you'll get thinner pieces of yarn. So it definitely has more of a hand-spun rustic feel to it. But I really, really enjoy the stitch definition that you get from single ply. I've used single ply for some shawls, and this is the first cardigan, and I'm wearing it, that I use single ply for. The only, I wouldn't even say it's criticism of the yarn, but observation of the yarn that I did have after I finished stitching it and before I put on the buttons, and wait till you see the buttons, but before I put those buttons on, I did soak it. I did not have to block it. I just laid it nicely to dry. It did not need to be blocked out. And the yarn did grow. So if I was to ever use this again, and potentially I might start experimenting with this a bit, I find myself hooking up garments and they're almost always much too large. Now, I don't know whether that's because I am not gauge swatching correctly. I am getting better at gauge swatching, or whether the yarns that I'm choosing, the wool blends that I'm choosing, are growing when I wash them, which could be. But I am finding that I'm getting a little disappointed in my finished product because it's not quite what I'm envisioning it to be in the beginning with fit. I want things to be a little more fitted. So I may actually play with sizing in some of these things. So what I've been doing is going by, of course, the sizes that are listed in the pattern, but really trying to do a lot of trying on as I go. And I thought I had it really good with this cardigan. And then I washed it and the wool grew. So lesson learned, it still fits very well and it's still a very wearable piece, just not quite what I'd imagined it to be. So next time, if I make this cardigan again, and I'm suspecting I will because it is that awesome of a pattern, I am going to make a smaller size. I'm going to make it shorter and I'm going to make it a smaller size. Getting to know your own body shape and your body measurements is important. And the whole idea behind making my own wardrobe is that I can alter and I can make it fit me. So now it's time to get a little more involved, I'll say, in the actual fit of the garments that I'm making and do the modifications to the patterns now that I'm more comfortable with that. That'll make it fit better for me and make it very bespoke to me. So I'm actually excited to be stepping into this adventure. Let me show you my cardigan. So the cardigan itself is the Envision Cardigan. It is a pattern available on Ravelry. It is a paid-for pattern, and it's designed by Heidi May. So this is the front page of the pattern. It doesn't really give away anything, but what I can say is this pattern comes in a multitude of sizes, everything from the smallest baby sweater all the way up until a 58-inch chest circumference. So that's pretty amazing. To have worked out the maths in that is mind-boggling, and you know, all my respect to the designer, because wow, the maths, that's all I can say. So all of the stitches used in the pattern I think are accessible to the most beginner of crocheters. So single crochets, half double crochets, these are all American terms, by the way. Half double crochet, two together, front post double crochet, back post double crochet, chain and stitches. So those are the abbreviations and the stitches used. So nothing outrageous. There's no patterning to the stitches or anything like that. It's pretty basic. But yeah, I'm really impressed with how it turned out. I just think I made too big of a size. All right, so let me give you a little bit of a view. So, oh, I think just hit the microphone. I'm sorry, that probably created a large crinkle in your ear. So the collar is pretty basic. It doesn't have a big fold over collar or anything, which I quite love. This is a very simple cardigan. It's a simple piece, and I appreciate that. It does have ribbing on the cuffs and ribbing at the bottom of the sweater. Let me stand up to show you. I hope you can see it. So it does have the ribbing at the bottom of the sweater as well. The ribbing is done a little bit differently than I've seen in the past, so it creates pretty well a flat surface to the back, but a ribbed surface to the front. The body and sleeves it's worked top down, which I kind of appreciated. The body and sleeves are done in half double crochet. The instructions are very easy to follow, very simple to follow, very well written pattern. Yeah, I can't say enough about the pattern. Check it out if you're looking for a good cardigan, a good sweater pattern to use. The buttons that I used are from a local-ish. She lives in the next city over to me. She is from Edmonton, Alberta. And her company is called HedgePig Pottery. I have ordered from her before. I actually discovered her in a yarn show where I bought some beads from her. She's amazing. So everything she does is hand-shaped and hand-painted, and it's all fired clay. So it's very, very unique and very bespoke. So I went onto her Etsy store, because you know me and Etsy, and I found these buttons. Now, I don't know how well you're going to be able to see them in camera. I hope they're in focus. I am going to be putting some pictures in as well. And I know that I say that all the time and then never do, but I will. I will do it this time. So they are little foxes. Aren't they adorable? I absolutely love these little buttons. I was a little worried they might be too heavy for the sweater, but so far so good. They don't feel too heavy. Now, if I find they are too heavy in the front and they're weighing the sweater down in the front, I'll probably remove all but the top one and put just round basic wooden buttons down and just have the one fox. But for now, I'm loving my fox buttons. And I can't recommend HedgePig Pottery more as a seller. If you have the opportunity to go check them out on Etsy, I thoroughly suggest you do. They are incredibly quick to ship. They protect the buttons that they send amazingly well with bubble wrap and whatnot. I have not had a single one break in transit. They're amazing. Please go check them out. All right. So that is my Envision cardigan, and that is the first of a few finished objects I have to share with you. As I said, I've been sick, so I've had a lot of time to crochet. So the next thing I want to share with you is the Lost Souls Skull Shawl. I did show you one last week, and it's the same shawl. This one, I believe, is one row smaller, trying to play around with the lengths. And it's a little bit more subtle because of the variegated yarn used. So it starts out at the top with just being solid black, and then it goes into a variegated. Now the yarn I used is Impeccable, Loops and Threads Impeccable, so just the Michaels brand. And the colorway, oh my goodness, the colorway is black and newsprint variegated, and it was one of the big balls. Now, because it is a variegated, it's got less yardage in it than the solid big balls, so I do not have any left over from this. The variegation, I think, does make the skull pattern a little less noticeable, but it is still there. Yeah, so that will go into my craft fair bin as I prepare for my fall shows. It is, as I said, the Lost Souls Skull Shawl. It is a free downloadable pattern from Ravelry. The designer is Marietta Roy, and it is an amazing pattern. Once you get into the pattern, you can memorize it. It's a number of rows repeat, but they're very logical. They make sense, and they just grow from the point up into a triangle. And yeah, it's an amazing pattern. I've made many of these now, and they always go over very, very well. So yes, that's the Lost Soul Skull Shawl by Marietta Roy. I will link everything down below, so if you're interested in any of the patterns, you'll be able to find them down there if they are available for you to find. I just keep checking the time to make sure I don't run out of recording space. And I have time to show you one more finished object before I have to reset the record button. So here it is. Eek! I showed you the beginning of these socks on the last podcast. I had just started the toe of the first sock. These are worked up in Grello is the Bee's Knees, which is a beautiful self-striping colorway by Louise at the Wool Baron. And I talk about her all the time because I love her yarn and I love her self-striping. She does an amazing job with self-striping yarn. I did mention last podcast that, you know, she and I are working together a bit to try and develop just the perfect length of yarn in a self-striping to give really good results in crochet. Although, you know what, I'm finding depending on the stitch you're using, even the yarn intended for knit is coming out quite well. So the pattern I used for these is a slightly modified version of a Ron Strong pattern called the Lake Lynn Socks. The biggest alteration that I did to the pattern is in the cuff. I did a front post, back post, extended single crochet ribbing, as opposed to the up and down ribbing that is in the pattern. I just like this type of ribbing better personally. Again, this is my favorite sock toe. Yeah. So those are the Grello is the Bee's Knees socks, self-striping yarn. Absolutely adore these. These are by far my favorite socks to date. Although I have to say, what I find myself doing is every time I complete a project, as long as it turned out, you know, at least somewhat the way I expected it to, it becomes my new favorite of whatever it is. For example, this is my new favorite sweater. These are my new favorite socks. Chances are the next sweater I make will become my new favorite sweater, and the next pair of socks I make or design, yes, I am working on a sock design, will become my new favorite socks. So yeah, I just fall in love with whatever project I have just completed. All right, so that is a quick rundown of the things that I have finished. Well, there is one more thing, but we'll get into that later on. Things that I have finished since last time we talked. And if you bear with me, I'm going to get organized, and then I have to talk to you about a wonderful yarn swap that I did. I'll be right back. All right, so a yarn swap. I've never done a yarn swap before, so this was my first one. And I saw on the internet that Llama Mama Kayla was hosting a yarn swap, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to get involved. So I got involved, and I talked about it a little bit on last podcast, number 30, and you know, expressed that I was a little anxious about the swap because there was really no guidelines. Now, I did a little ornament swap last Christmas with I believe it was Ella from No Catchy Name who hosted it. And she was very clear in her launch of that swap that, you know, the obligation was to send a crocheted Christmas ornament. That was the complete obligation. Now, if you chose to add other things into the package, that was completely up to you. But the only obligation you had was to send a ornament. And I'm sure that most people did more than just a single ornament, but there was no huge obligation to send these enormous packages. There were no really such guidelines with this yarn swap, with this fiber swap. And that was a little stressful for me. My personal brand of crazy, I get it. But then I started seeing some of the eager beavers who did their swaps and saw these huge packages going out, and I thought, oh my goodness, I can't do that. Like some of these boxes were like boxes, like 4 foot by 4 foot. My goodness, the cost of shipping in Canada, and I know I ranted about this last time, but the cost of shipping in Canada is so prohibitive of doing something like that. So it did make me a little anxious, but I'm happy to say that the recipient, hi Kayla, of my package seemed very, very happy, and that was great. And she also sent me an amazing package. Now, I did already unpackage it because it came a week or so ago, and I couldn't resist. I couldn't wait and just do it as an unpackaging, but I do want to share with you all the wonderful things that Kayla sent me. So Kayla, by the way, has her own YouTube channel, and it is Kayla Crochet Love. I will link it below. So go over and give her some love. Say hello. She's amazing. She's a fellow Canadian, which is kind of nice to find more Canadians out there. And so let me go through what was in the package. So first off, she sent me this really cute card. How adorable is that? As a dog lover, as an animal lover, I love all the cards. It has a sweet note in it. And yeah, this is fantastic. She gave me a little bit of inside information about some of the things in the package, which was kind of nice. I'm not going to read out everything that she wrote, but thank you, Kayla, for the kind words. So let's get into it. So she sent, let's start with this one. So I am a Harry Potter fanatic, and we did exchange, not just our original entry into the exchange, but we also talked on through email a few times and got to know each other a little bit about, what we liked and what we didn't like. And, I did mention that I was a Harry Potter fan, and so within the package, she sent me this wonderful mug. So it's one of those mugs that'll keep hot things hot and cold things cold, which is fantastic. And it is a Harry Potter Marauders map. So it's got, a picture of the front of the Marauders map. Now I have one of the Marauders maps, the fold-out ones from when I went to Disney World a few years back. So that's kind of fun. And on the back, it does have the footprints, and I solemnly swear that I am up to no good. And I love this. Thank you so much, Kayla. I love all things Potter. I know, crazy. Also in the package was this, I don't know if call it a cake, a disc. An amigurumi disc by Red Heart. Now, I've seen these in Michael's. I've never bought one before. I've never worked with them before, but I definitely will now. Each disc comes with the colors like this, and it's my understanding that you do have to go through and separate the color, or ball up each of the colors and separate them to be able to do the amigurumis. It is a super fine #1 weight yarn, which is fine. I love working with thin yarns. And the pattern for this one, so it's got these 2 little elephants, and according to the packaging, each disc will make 2 amigurumis, and the pattern is a downloadable pattern. So you go to redheart.com and you can download or upload or get the pattern. You can get the pattern to make those elephants. So I will definitely be doing that and showing you the results. Thank you, Kayla. That is amazing. Then she sent me some buttons. I love buttons. I do lots of cardigans. I do lots of things like that. So buttons always come in handy. So the first one I'll show you is the set of 3. So 3 aqua and gray buttons. So they're right up my color alleys. They will go into my collection very, very well. And then a big button. I'm thinking one of those big button cowls might be coming in a beautiful royal blue, and it has some design work around the edges. I really, really like the color on that one. Isn't that pretty? So thank you for the buttons. Then she sent me a little pin, and it reads wool, an essential part of a high fiber diet. And it looks like this came from an Etsy shop called Flairgame, flairgame.etsy.com. I'll link that below as well. So I'll add that to my pin collection. On her podcast, she's been showing off these dishcloths that she's been making, and they are in this beautiful flower pattern. And I had commented a few times on her podcast about how much I liked the pattern. So I was thrilled that she put one in the swap box for me. And look at that beautiful, beautiful colorway. So that is just perfect. And I haven't used it yet because I was waiting to show you, but it will quickly go into rotation in my dishcloths rotation. So thank you so much. And I do so love this pattern. I don't have the pattern, so I can't link it below, but I may be getting it from Kayla because I really, really like this pattern. So the next thing she sent me is a skein of hand-dyed yarn. It is by Leo and Roxy. Leo and Roxy Yarn Co. I've never heard of this yarn dyer before, but they are a proudly Canadian, as it reads on the label, hand dyer, which is fantastic. This was the April 2019 sock club. So they must do a sock club. I'm going to have to check them out online. And it is an 80-20 sock blend, so 80% merino, 20% nylon. And then they've also added in 100% good vibes. So I really like this company. I'm going to have to check them out. And it is a beautiful colorway. It is sort of a purple. It's got a lighter color base to it. Not quite white. It's more like a light gray. But then it's also got speckling of green. And this totally reminds me of lilacs. Isn't that beautiful? So thank you so much, Kayla. That will be added to my yarn, or my sock yarn collection, and will eventually become a pair of socks. Thank you so much. And then she did something extremely special. She has been experimenting with dyeing yarn herself, and she sent me 3 skeins of her own hand-dyed yarn. Now she just used Peyton's classic wool in a worsted weight. She sent me one of the yarn bands to give me the information on the yarn that was used. So it's just the Peyton's classic wool in a worsted weight. And look what she's done. Aren't these beautiful? So we have a blue and white variegated skein. We have a nearly solid, just a little bit of white purple skein, and then this beautiful skein in the middle that pulls the 2 colors together. Those are absolutely gorgeous, Kayla. Thank you so much. I suspect that these will be used maybe for some mittens. I'm trying to figure out mittens this year. Maybe a hat, a cowl. Oh, so many things this can be used for. It is very soft, and I thank you so much. Beautiful, beautiful colors. And last but not least in the package was an amazing book. Now, Kayla gave me a little bit of background information on the book, and it was a book that was gifted to her by a lady. And when she found out that I am also a bit of an avid cross-stitcher, she thought that it would be put to better use in my collection than in hers. And here it is. It is called Picture Your Pet in Cross Stitch. And it is amazing. It has so many beautiful patterns in it. It's got a section on dogs, cats, furry friends, scales and feathers, horses and farmyard friends. So all the different kinds of animals that you could consider as pets. There's rodents, there's cats, there's dogs, there's even samplers. So patterns for samplers. This is an amazing book, Kayla, and yes, I love it. Thank you so much. So that was the package that I was sent by Kayla, and I am thrilled with it, Kayla. It is beautiful. Thank you. Overall, my experience doing the swap, it was a lot of fun, and it is something that I would consider getting involved in again. So if you've never done a swap, try it. You might just surprise yourself and find out that you like it. As long as you can get over the anxiety like I did of, oh no, am I sending enough? Oh no, am I sending too much? It can become very nerve-wracking. Alrighty, so that is the swap package. And I do have one more thing that I can share with you of something that I have recently purchased. So I will be right back. All right. So the next thing I've got to talk to you about is a purchase that I made online, Etsy. Oh, Etsy. After hearing about this yarn dyer from Hannah at the Cozy Cottage Crochet. Hannah is an amazing person. If you haven't watched her podcast, although I'm sure you have, but if you haven't, you really must. She is one of the most, I don't even know how to describe it. She's real. She is just Hannah. She's sweet and honest, and she has integrity. I think that's the biggest thing about Hannah for me, is that she's believable in everything she says and in everything she does, because she has such integrity. And Hannah, I know you watch this podcast. Thank you so much. You are an inspiration to me daily. She is also an enabler. So Hannah had found this yarn dyer from the UK called Attic Spin Dye. And she had ordered some of their yarn. So I had to go order some of their yarn. They do amazing yarn. So this is the skein of yarn that I ordered. And it is called Cupid Strikes. And it is beautiful. It is a highly variegated pinks and reds. It's even got the reds sort of go over into the orange tones. So it's different than anything else that I have in my collection. It is a typical sock yarn in that it's a 75-25 with superwash merino and nylon. So a typical sock blend. Nothing too surprising there. There is their beautiful little tag, and it came with a stitch marker. I love all these little handmade touches. I do a lot of this when it comes to my own Etsy shop and sending things out. So I always get excited when other people take a lot of care in their packaging. But this isn't all that they sent. So within the package, there was also a couple of individually wrapped tea bags, which are already gone because I consumed them quickly. And they were amazing and yummy and awesome. And it's so neat to get teas from other places because it's tea that I can't get here. So it was neat to try some new teas out. But also within the package was this beautifully bright little mini. Isn't that gorgeous? So incredibly intense teal colors with this beautiful pop of a burgundy/purple color in it. This is just gorgeous. Such depth of color in this. Fantastic. But that's not all. It also came with this beautiful little lavender sachet. Now, I absolutely love lavender. I plant it every year outside. I do have a small patch of lavender in my front yard that does struggle to come back year after year. My climate is not quite perfect for lavender to be a perennial, but I do plant it as an annual also every year so that I can dry lavender. I love lavender. So this was an amazing addition. Thank you so much. And finally, besides the little stitch marker that was attached to the skein of yarn, it also came with another stitch marker that is a little spinning wheel. So those were beautiful additions to the package, and I have to say their pricing is moderate. Their shipping costs were phenomenal, and it came very, very quickly. So if you have the inkling to try a yarn dyer from the UK, I cannot recommend Attic Spin Dye highly enough. They were very professional. Their yarn is beautiful, and I will certainly be showing this yarn as I work it up in its project. It will for sure become a pair of socks. I really like this color. I'm not sure whether it's going to end up in my box of Christmas socks or whether it is going to be a Valentine type sock. So more, I'm not sure yet. The perfect pattern hasn't jumped out at me yet, but I really, really do like the yarn. So you know what? Give them a shot. At least give them a look. They are on Etsy. Yeah, amazing, amazing, amazing product. So let me see, that brings me to talking about my new pattern release that's coming up. So first of all, I would like to say a huge thank you to everyone who has purchased a copy of the DRC market bag that I released back in May. It is amazing to have so many people making a pattern that I designed. It's really an exciting thing. And the design bug has now hit me really, really hard. I have a number of designs on the go right now. But the next one that I would like to release is another bag pattern. It is tentatively being called the Summer Vibes Market Bag. That may change. I'm not sure. I haven't settled on the name yet. So here is the first prototype of the new pattern. So it is a bucket bag. It does have a solid round bottom. It has some repeats on the sides. I sure hope you can see this well. So that it is a stacked shells pattern. Then there is a segment that is solid with some little keyholes in it. It goes back into stacked shells, then goes into some decreasing to slightly narrow the top of the bag, and then into the strap. And again, I've gone with that wide strap so that it's comfortable. I do a finishing trim around both edges of the bag. I found not only does it neaten up the work, but it also lends some strength to the strap, and it doesn't allow the strap to stretch quite as much as it would without it on there, because we know that crochet stretches in that direction, and by crocheting around this way, it has crochet going in the opposite direction. So it doesn't allow it to stretch quite as much as it would if that trim was not on it, in my opinion. So that is the bag. The pattern itself is almost ready to go. My method of designing is I create it and I write it down as I go. Then I use that pattern to work completely from to create a second bag to make sure that it's working. Then once that second bag works out and I've tweaked the pattern enough, I put it out with testers. And that's the stage I'm at right now. So I am looking for some bag testers. If you would be interested in hooking up one of these bags and giving me some feedback, please get in contact with me. I will be linking the email for the, excuse me, for the podcast in the show notes below. Please shoot me an email and I will share the pattern with you. in exchange for some honest feedback, any corrections that you see that need to be made, that sort of thing. I am looking for a fairly quick turnaround on this. So I am looking for testers who could have the bag completed, so their test completed by June 28th, so a little over a week. I can hook one of these up in an evening. So it's not like it's a really intense sweater pattern or something. So it's a little over a week that you'd have to hook up the bag and to get me some feedback. The reason why that's the short turnover time is I'm looking to release it on July the 1st. So July the 1st in Canada is Canada Day. So I'm looking for it to be my Canada Day release. So yes, if you are interested in that, please shoot me an email at the email that's linked below, and that is Rabe Creations at shaw.ca. I will link it below. Yeah, I would love to connect with you and have you test out my pattern. Let me see. I do believe that that is all I have to share with you today. So lots of finishes, lots of things in the works, some beautiful new additions. Thank you again, Kayla, for your wonderful swap package. Yeah, I don't have any new starts because I just finished everything, but I do have plans for a new sock start. I have plans to release a pattern, and I have plans for designs on a pair of socks and 2 different cowls. So lots is coming up. If you'd be interested in keeping on top of all of that and you haven't yet, please hit that subscribe button. Other places you can make contact with me, of course, on Ravelry. Come join us over there. I would love to have you come visit the Etsy shop. There's lots of bags in there right now, as well as the patterns. So by all means, come on over and take a peek at the project bags and the patterns and whatnot. That's over there on Etsy. I will be having, as I said, another pattern releasing on July 1st. And I am also hoping to have a special announcement closer to July 1st surrounding the Etsy shop. Wink, wink. I think you could probably figure out what that special announcement might include. Yeah, that's about all I've got for you today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I look forward to spending another crafty week getting things prepared to show you next time. Until we speak again, please take time for yourself. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Be kind. And I'll see you soon. Bye now.